Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. Many times over the course of my life, I have seen, after a particular catastrophe or during a time when a certain people, a certain nation, a certain part of the world is going through an especially difficult time. I remember after 9/11, when the World Trade Center, which I remember being built, was falling down in lower Manhattan. The Pentagon, I do not recall. I'm not from Washington, D.C., but I remember that too. It is as if it were yesterday. That is how close it feels to me. And when I think about it, I'm reminded that it was not yesterday, that it was almost a quarter of a century ago. Life goes by so rapidly. It does not feel like a quarter of a century ago, and yet it will be in 2 years. Quarter of a century ago. No, 2 years. 1 year. Yeah, 1 year in September. 1 year. It will be a quarter of a century. It is a real tragedy when these things happen, but what they do is they reveal who are the good people in the world, who are the caring people in the world, who are the people who are willing to put aside externalities, or as German philosopher Edmund Husserl called it, bracketing things that don't matter. Race, ethnicity, nationality, they don't matter. What matters is that we are all people, proletarians, subaltern. We are all one people. We are all a part of a struggle for a better world, hopefully, in my view, a communist or revolutionary socialist world. Again, we are all ... Well, it came to me as I was watching a video where somebody was carrying a sign. The sign said, "We are all Palestinians." Yes, we are all Palestinians. We are all Gazans. It doesn't matter. What many people don't know yet is that the Zionist entity has expanded the war from Gaza to the West Bank. That the West Bank, too, has been brought into the war. Obviously, Hamas was not in the West Bank. But I guess magically, somehow they teleported there. And they are now sharing the blame for what the protectors of the Gazans, Hamas, did in staging their jailbreak into Israel. So sad. So sad. And so I wanted to join with the person carrying that sign. I could not tell whether that individual was female or male. The person's head was cut off in the video, but it doesn't matter. I share the sentiment, and I'm sure many of you do as well. What I am going to do after I make this podcast is do a search of some of the t-shirt sites that I commonly go to, such as Cafe Press and many others, for "We are all Palestinians," or "We are all Gazans." Maybe both, because we are. It is purely luck. Purely luck that we are not in the rubble. There is no rationale behind it. I remember a book that came out years ago. It was written, as I recall, by a rabbi, and it was called "Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People?" Obviously, that is a question without an answer, as the author acknowledged. Simply put, bad things happen. They happen all the time, whether we are good individually or bad individually, doesn't matter. It may be pleasant to figure out explanations for why things happen to us, to figure out a simple cause and effect relationship, to find out the reasons for our suffering as human beings. But ultimately, it is not really possible. Again, life happens, and life is full of good and bad things. And each of us at one time or another will experience both. Fortunately, I suppose, you and I, if you are in the first world, like me, will not experience the kinds of things that the Gazans are experiencing right now. We don't know. We could. But the prospects for that happening certainly do not appear genuine to me right now at this point. Maybe in the future. Maybe. We can't predict what will happen tomorrow. But we know what is going on in Palestine right now, primarily in Gaza, but also now in the West Bank. We know what is happening in that part of the world. And we also know the culprit. We know both the culprit and the victims. And so if we are pretenders to humanity, if we want to be ranked among those Homo sapiens who are genuinely human beings, meaning are genuinely possessed of humanity, then we must collectively chant the mantra, we are all Palestinians, because we are. The lines that divide us are artificial. They simply don't matter. I am a Semite. The Gazans are Semites. The people on the West Bank are Semites. Most of the Israelis are also Semites. And yet it appears that some Semites have it better than others. I am one of those that have it better than others. What really bothers me, I suppose, is that when I consider that, I realize that I don't deserve it. I am not putting myself down. What I'm saying is that I should not be privileged. I am an ordinary human being watching other ordinary human beings, including babies, be slaughtered, be called Nazis by Israelis. There is nothing that I can do realistically to ease their pain, to make their sufferings go away. I wish there were. I wish there were things that I could do. But if there are, I can't think of them. I do pray for them on a regular basis. On a regular basis. They are in my heart right now. They are in my heart. They are in my heart. Not the Zionists, but they are in my heart. And there they will remain till the end which none of us can know. So, again, we are all Palestinians. We are all Gazans. I wish the Zionists, the Israelis, shared that sentiment. I would like to see those Zionists in Israel, those members of AIPAC in the US, go out onto the streets and collectively chant that mantra, we are all Palestinians. I do not expect that to happen anytime soon. Perhaps no time at all. Will they regret calling these innocent people Nazis? Ever? I don't know. I hope so. I hope so. When I consider that the real fascists are the supporters of the Zionist entity. I would not call them Nazis, as I've said before, because that would be a violation of history. It would not be fair, especially to all of those people, Jews, Gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses, and others, who died in the Holocaust of the 20th century. So no, I won't do that. But what I will do is to say that the fascists who now dominate the government and the populace of Israel now have a heavy burden, and they have no one to blame but themselves. In this world, we generally, in my view, don't know the burden that we have. It is hidden from us. We are allowed to go through our lives as broken, as damaged, and as hateful as we may be, with no immediate consequences. Sometime soon, that will change. When, again, I have no idea. But once again, despite the cries of the Zionists in Israel that the Gazans are Nazis, I respond, we are all Palestinians. Thankfully, that's all I can say, thankfully, we are not all Israelis. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.